I think Wier is definitely an option now. I think that's what last night proved.
It is a really good sign for us going into the second half of this season, knowing that without Bukayo Saka, we can still create threat.
Jesus' goal was a very un-Jesus goal. He just needs to be a bit greedy. His return to form is so timely.
I'm confident that we'll get, one of the four.
This team doesn't really have too much to fear over two legs with anyone in Europe.
Yeah, hopefully we can go down there and score some goals.
If they slip up, you've got to be right on them.
We should absolutely go full strength, in my opinion. United is the easier game.
Arsenal Open 2025 as they absolutely mean to go on with a win. I'm Talia Lazarus and this is Inside Gooners. And joining me today to talk about that win and much more are former Arsenal man Adrian Clarke, comedian Jacob Hawley, and the Evening Standard Simon Collings. So, an absolutely stunning start to 2025. I mean, it was a stunning end to the year as well, but a stunning start to 2020-25. Wow, I can't even say it correctly yet. I'm still getting used to it. With obviously a win at Brentford. The thing is, though, a lot of fans, opposition fans, they thought we were gonna lose points there, but it's a good win then, isn't it, Adrian?
It's a really good win, yeah, especially having gone one down. So we showed a little bit of character to fight back, but I wasn't that nervous. I know that the other guys were feeling it a little bit. But I just looked at the clock. I thought the way we'd started the game was really positive. We were all over them, suffocating them, I think, around the edge of their box. And yeah, they did. They created the goal, and then there was one other chance that David Raya managed to somehow keep out. But I felt that we were on it. I just thought the attitude was really good. The tempo was excellent. And Brentford always let in goals. At home, even though they got this terrific record, I fancied us to score 2 or 3 in the game. So, I thought it was a really good start to the year, especially given that we had to sort of chop and change the lineup.
Maybe we don't need that Dubai trip after all. Well, I'm not gonna say anything just yet. But so Inside Gooners regular Clive Palmer tweeted during the first half, which I actually remember seeing as well. This game has that feeling, in inverted commas, we know the one. I saw that tweet and I felt the same. Did anyone else feel the same? I felt the same, but there was also this kind of innate feeling inside where I was like, I feel it, but I'm also feeling confident.
I didn't have that.
Okay.
I didn't feel confident. I had PTSD from Fulham. I was thinking about Newcastle. I feel like I've seen a lot of games where if we don't score the first goal, and especially if the opposition team can score first, put men behind the ball, I've watched us with Bukayo Saka struggle to break teams down. Without Bukayo there, unless the pitch is going to change shape to a hexagon so we get 2 more corners, I don't know how we're going to create the chances. And I think the most kind of pleasing thing about that game is that with Gabby Jesus, with Gabby Martinelli and Mikel Merino, it's 3 goal scorers who, let's be honest, the first half of this season haven't been reliable threats for us. Gabby Jesus, at one point, I didn't know if he was any use to us as a sub, let alone leading the line. Martinelli, It's been a pretty in and out start to the season for him, and Merino just hasn't been on the pitch as much as you might expect for a £35 million signing. So I think the fact that those 3 got the goals, it is a really good sign for us going into the second half of this season, knowing that without Bukayo Saka, we can still create threat.
Yeah, on that, those 3 players, Jesus, Martinelli and Merino, they touched the ball inside Brentford's box on double-figure occasions, so 10 or more times. Now, that doesn't happen.
No.
Not many teams have 3 players that touch the ball that often inside the danger zone. What it tells me is that we're filling the box. In the absence of Bukayo Saka, everyone has to step up 5 or 10%. We also have to get ourselves into more positions to score.
Yeah.
And I think, and I saw it at Palace, less so against Ipswich, but I think we are flooding the box. And that is a very simple tactic, but it's one that works, especially when you've got someone like Merino attacking crosses.
Well, flooding the box and taking shots. I don't know about you guys, but for me yesterday, that was the big difference. Is I remember in those games against Fulham, it felt like it just take us so long for players to get the ball out of their feet and get a shot away. Whereas yesterday, 2 of those goals come from someone having a shot, it takes a deflection or the keeper parries, and then someone follows up. And that feels like something, if we're not going to have Bukayo, people need to start being less gun-shy and just having a go.
Jesus' goal was a very un-Jesus goal. And I think it was interesting afterwards, actually, he spoke about how he appreciates he needs to score more of those goals. Like being a poacher, rebounds, tap-ins, because he does a lot of great work off the ball. Particularly against Brentford, 2 big centre-backs. He runs the channels, he drifts up wide. Sometimes he just needs to be a bit greedy. be a bit selfish and say, no, I'm going to wait for this rebound. I'm going to wait there. And I think for him, I thought his performance changed after that goal. He's such a confidence player. But once he scored, he kind of just relaxed a bit. And yeah, I mean, his return to form is so timely with Saka being out of the team. And obviously Havertz couldn't play yesterday. And I think it's just transformed that attack, having him back to close to what he could be and what he can be for this team.
So then, while we're talking about Gabriel Jesus, he got man of the match. Adrian, what did you think of his performance?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I think he's been really sharp lately. I think that you're right, Simon. It's about confidence with Gabriel Jesus. He's always had it there. He's always been a bright player and someone that can make things happen. But when he's not scoring goals, I just think he tenses up a little bit. And when he tenses up, he's just not the same player. He's not as impactful. So yeah, no, he was good. I thought that Martinelli really ran his socks off yet again. I think he's definitely stepped up since Saka's been out. There's a bit more industry about him. I think he's more decisive with his runs. But I probably would pick out Thomas Partey as our best player on the day. I thought he was really, really strong. Won so many tackles, particularly in that first half. Brentford couldn't get out because Thomas Partey was on them. He was there every time to win it, give it, and obviously it was his shot that was spilled for Jesus' goal. So yeah, look, it was there were some good performances all round.
No, I think it's really nice, especially to see with Saka not being in, other players really stepping up in ways that maybe we weren't 100% sure about. And then Ethan Nwaneri, he earned his first Premier League start and grabbed the opportunity with both hands, didn't he?
It was interesting. Like after, obviously, there was news that the bug went around the team. Right now, that's what kept players like Kai Havertz out. It was interesting afterwards.
Not just the fact it was New Year's Eve the night before.
No one ever suggested anyone would go. But it was interesting afterwards that Arteta actually said that he wanted to start Ethan anyway. And there was a little bit of that because he's made his professional debut there, coming on as a sub a couple of years ago. He wanted to keep him in the team. And I thought Ethan was brilliant yesterday. I thought he showed so much of what we like to see from Saka, that ability to beat a player one-on-one, that ability to take the ball with a player on his back and keep hold of it and keep the game moving, cutting inside. I thought that right-hand side looked the best it's been since we lost Saka. And for me, that's the future. For the rest of this season, until Bukayo comes back, I'd like to keep Ethan there for the balance of the team.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be amazing if he got that much football. I mean, I did like his performance. I thought he was great. He didn't give the ball away until like late in the second half, which was amazing. Just for his age, he's a very, very, very special talent. But actually, just if you judge him compared to other players, he's just superb, isn't he? Yeah. He makes good decisions 9 times out of 10. Looks after the ball well. I love there was a little bit of skill, wasn't there, where he just knocked it around the guy and ran around him. I just thought that was a little bit impudent. One area is a bit special. I personally feel that over the next 2 or 3 weeks, Arteta's going to experiment. We tried Martinelli. Worked for a bit at Palace. Well, it did work at Palace. Didn't work so well against Ipswich. We've tried one area now. I think he'll have 2 or 3 other ideas up his sleeve that we might see over the course of January.
I think Nwaneri is definitely an option now. I think that's what last night proved. And the thing I liked was, he was taking players on the outside with his right foot. He was happy to cross it in. He was trusted with taking the corners, which is, it's a big thing in his team. 17-year-old, Arteta says, you're taking the corners.
I mean, with all our set pieces as
well. No, that is. I think it could have had Odegaard take them.
Yep.
I just felt like the sort of confidence he had about him. And Arteta said he had this feeling, maybe because it was Brentford again, but that this was the moment to do it. And a bit like with Lewis Skelly, who got the start in the Champions League, I kind of feel like this was a moment where Arteta thought, OK, now you're ready. And for this month, which is a very busy month, I agree, this is now a chance where you can put Nwaneri in the team on the right flank and say, yeah, you'll do a job and you'll probably do a very good job.
I remember a couple of years ago when we lost Saliba at centre-back, and there was a lot of calls to move Ben White over. And I remember Arteta saying at the time, he wanted to change as fewer things as possible in that team. And that's what this does. It keeps it doesn't move Martinelli away from the left-hand side. It doesn't move Gabby Jesus away from 9. That might be an option we might try as Kai Havertz goes up top and we try Gabby Jesus on the right. The other thing with Ethan that I really liked, he's just got that ability to get a cross in when you think he might not. You know what I mean? Rather than turning back, rather than knocking it back to the fullback, rather than taking the easy pass, he gets that cross in, and that's where Martinelli's goal comes from. He pulls that cross out, Marino competes for it, and it falls to Martinelli for the goal. And if you think about how this Arsenal team functions, for me, it's that. it's build up on the right-hand side and a bit of creativity from the right-hand side, be it Saka, be it Ødegaard, be it Timber sometimes, and then finishing from the left. And so seeing that goal, that for me was like, well, that's our football. That's how we score goals.
That's the only thing with experimenting is that obviously sometimes it's fantastic and it's amazing what the results are, but then other times it's a disaster. And that's the only issue with the pros and cons that everyone knows with experimenting, especially at the moment with everything that's going on with the team.
When Ødegaard was out, we tried 4-4-2, didn't we? And for a number of those games, it worked. Where you had Trossard up front with Havertz, and we were talking about the big man, little man combo. You know, that's something we can go back to.
Yeah.
It could be something where you go with Havertz and Jesus, and then maybe you tuck in Ethan Nwaneri off the right, or even Ødegaard. So look, we've got a lot of options up our sleeve.
I think Nwaneri as well, his biggest sort of strength is that in terms of, if you're looking sort of profile and similarities to Saka, he's probably the most like for like in the squad.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're playing a right footer there. I mean, you could move Havertz on the right, which I think he did at Leverkusen early in his career. But if you want someone to play on the right, to cut in on the left foot, you basically got to play Nwaneri. And I think that is probably his strength. And if Arteta, as you say, that is how the team is kind of built to have a player do that, then Nwaneri's going to get more chances because he's the only one really who can do that.
So then, Simon, earlier you mentioned about the corners, our set pieces. It's nice to see that set pieces haven't dried up yet, have they? With the new year and all.
Yeah, and I mean, it was interesting. Thomas Frank was talking afterwards, and he was basically saying, Arsenal basically masters of it. And he said, I think they gave away 3 corners, which I think is the lowest they've ever done against Arsenal in a Premier League game, and they still conceded 1. And it's just the chaos they created from that.
Yeah.
Was so good. And I think teams are really struggling how to deal with these set pieces. We saw, obviously, I think Monaco take players out of the box. Palace did the same. And I think, as Frank kind of alluded to, the solution is you've basically just got to not give any corners away. Yeah. That is what everything you can do. It kind of reminds me.
Don't give corners to Arsenal.
Stoke all those years ago, where teams used to give away corners instead of throw-ins because they were worried about Delap. I think that is the extent with teams. You need to be desperate to not give them away. And actually, for the goal, Wier kind of had an error, didn't he? For some reason, he let it go for a corner when he could have cleared it. And I think that'll be teams' effort now, is do not give away any corners.
This was a different type of corner as well. So I think we targeted Flecken, their goalkeeper, as someone that didn't like people around him, bodies around him. He wasn't that commanding. So we flooded the area around him, which is a very simple idea. But we did it brilliantly. There wasn't so much of a charge from the back post. It was, let's get as many people around him as possible, including their own defenders. Now, I paused it, OK? So I've sort of looked back at the game and I've freeze-framed it at the moment where he goes to touch the ball. Do you know how many people were in the 6-yard box at that point?
Oh.
Have a guess.
6.
8.
16. 16.
16?
16 players were inside the 6-yard box at the point where he goes up to catch the ball. So, look, that
You two didn't even do double figures.
I mean, it was bad guesses, guys. Come on. You're better than that. But, no, it was... that was the ultimate crowding the goalkeeper moment. And there wasn't a foul. And, we deserved... It was a scruffy goal, but it came from a good idea.
16, that's unbelievable. Oh, I should do more of that. So then the bigger picture, actually, is that Arsenal are only 1 point off worse at this stage than they were last year. I mean, it's pretty unbelievable if you think about it.
Vibes are different, I think. I think, look, if you'd have said to me a few weeks ago you could be within a point's difference of where you were last year, but you'll have lost Bukayo Saka for, 3 months maybe, I wouldn't mind being 4 points behind and having Saka still here. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's still such a challenge to see us really overcome what we've lost with Bukayo. But we're going about it the right way. We're winning games. As you say, we're trying different things on that right flank. And I think most importantly, we're scoring goals. So we're getting enough goals, and we're seeing other goal scorers emerge. And we're not losing some of the things we're good at. And I think that is important. And the league title is such a difficult one because you look at the season Mo Salah's having, and it's just so hard not to see him lifting a trophy, right?
Oh, yeah.
But if it's not them, it has to be us. And I think that's the most important thing, is we stay on their tails now.
What about Nottingham Forest?
No.
I'm glad you said it.
Hey, there's an underdog all the time.
I mean, look, Leicester City did it.
Yeah,
Leicester City weren't up against Liverpool or Arsenal.
Okay.
Like, these two teams, and I would definitely put Arsenal at least on a par with Liverpool. I actually think we are a better team than Liverpool, but the difference at the moment is they've got Mo Salah, who's playing like prime time Messi, isn't it? It's just it's unbelievable. But I still believe, even though there's that big gap, I still believe we're the more rounded team. But whether that wins us the title or not, it remains to be seen.
I agree. I don't know about you. I still look back at that game and I think if Gabriel Magalhaes doesn't go off injured, we beat them at home. And that's what gives me hope, is the fact that I watched them for 90 minutes and I didn't think they were a better team than us.
Yeah, and Arteta made that point actually in his last press conference before the end of the year was, look, if Liverpool carry on, win all these games, you say fair play, we go next season. But if they slip up, you need to be there. And I think that's basically the message to the team would be, you've got to be right on them. Because I think Liverpool would have looked at that game yesterday and thought, Arsenal could lose that.
Yeah.
No Saka, no Havertz, Brentford's a difficult place to go. Just got to keep on them and hope when these games do come thick and fast like they do now, there's that slip, you're there to pounce. And Arsenal showed last year they can go on a big run of games, and that I think will be something that will help the squad. In a run-in, they've put a run together and they can, if they're there and thereabouts, they can put the pressure on.
So I have another stat for you guys. So Arsenal topped the calendar year table for 2024. It's the third time we've done it since we won the league. The other times we did it were 2015 and 2013. So maybe not a stat we want to be known for. Is it time maybe to put this together for a full season and change the stats a little bit?
I thought you were going to say, is it time that the Premier League gave out a trophy?
Well, maybe they should. Actually, you know what? Premier League, give out a trophy for that instead. There we go, we've said it.
Is it time to start singing that at the away fan? Top of the calendar year for 30 years running. You've never sung that.
Yeah, see, no one can do that, can they?
No, we do need a trophy. I think you can see with this group of players. For me, if I don't have a concern about the project, quote unquote, long term, because I think ultimately we are doing the right things. We're getting better year on year. No one wants to hear it. We've been incredibly unlucky this year. We have. No one wants to hear that, but we have. I've not seen anyone else get sent off for 2 reds, one of them being for kicking the ball away. That hasn't happened since it happened to us twice and cost us points twice. We've been unlucky, but it doesn't change the fact that there are some incredible footballers in our team who need to be lifting trophies soon. Players like William Saliba, who, by the way, no one's talking about it, he was unbelievable last night. I thought he had a fantastic second half. Players like that need to be winning things. Like, we're going to get to May, Saliba's going to have 2 years left on a contract again. I think Saka's in a similar position. Like, we do need to win things now. It has been 5 years under Arteta. I don't go into how much money we've spent stuff, because I think it's rubbish, because I think most other teams have actually spent more than us. But there are just players who are coming into the prime of their careers at Arsenal Football Club. And maybe I'm speaking with the PTSD of the Wenger era, watching great players leave us to go and win trophies elsewhere. But I don't want to lose any of this core group because they need to win elsewhere. I want them to win at Arsenal, and we have to do that soon. That's
why I think the Carabao Cup is important, just to have the experience as a group of winning something together. And I was looking at it before the last round, the quarter-final. The only one in this team, or in this squad, who was played in the FA Cup final when Arsenal won it was Kieran Tierney. So no one else in that squad has lifted a trophy on, because Saka didn't get on the pitch that day. So no one else has had that experience of lifting a trophy. And I just think for that group, people obviously, it's the Carabao Cup, but I just think for them to win something together, just to have that day, even when they won it in 2020, there were no fans there. So I just think for Arteta and this group to win a trophy like that when you're 3 games away from doing it would be really, really big. And the point is in the season. And you need something tangible from your time at the club for Arteta. There's a lot of good things he's done. Culture's been great, style of play, but something to actually show that this is what I've done. I think he needs it, and that's why this period is really big.
It's an elite team. Arsenal are top draw. Yeah. Like I'm talking, the highest level of European football. That's where Arsenal are at the moment. It's too good a team not to win trophies. So I'm confident. I'm confident that we'll get, one of the 4 at least this season. And that should just ease that worry that Jacob's got. And I understand that worry. But I just think if you're a player playing in this Arsenal team at the moment, whether you're winning trophies or not, I don't think you're thinking about leaving.
I hope not. But when those meetings come along to talk about contracts, that will be part of the conversation. Of course, and there's something you mentioned there, which it's going to sound daft, but day after New Year's Day, why not say something daft? You mentioned that this is an elite team in Europe. Yeah. I think we are. We talk about the Carabao Cup. We say that we're staying on Liverpool's tail in the Premier League. There's 2 other trophies, and one of them's Champions League. I look at this team, and the fact that I truly believe we're the best defensive team in Europe right now. I don't think that defence is bettered by anyone. I also look at the head-to-head games we've had with the top 6 over the last 18 months or so. I don't think I've seen a top 6 team be better than us over 90 minutes. Bayern Munich last year scarred me a bit. I have a feeling that this team doesn't really have too much to fear over two legs with anyone in Europe. I think we lack one more elite attacker. And I think we know that Arsenal and the board are looking at that this January. If they could come up with that, and we know that Bukayo Saka, maybe not the round of 16, maybe the quarterfinal, maybe certainly the semi-finals, you'd hope for him to be back.
Maybe the final.
Well, yeah. Look, we don't know the ins and outs of that injury, but he's going to be back at some point this season. Arteta's told us that. I look at that competition. It sounds mad. No. but I don't fear anyone. I'm not scared by anyone in Europe. And I think if you look at leagues, I think you need to be able to score goals consistently, and I think you need an elite attacker. And more often than not, when there's one team in the league who's got the best attacker, that attacker lifts the trophy. I think you can go back through the Champions League. It's often the best defence that wins that tournament. Yep. And I do look at us, and I don't know, I've got a funny feeling.
I like the feeling.
I like the feeling. It's a different feeling to the one you had earlier, so I like this one. Let's stick with this one. Let's go with this one. So then let's move on to the Brighton game, 5:30 on Saturday. Again, a tricky game away as well.
Yeah, I mean, tricky. They're all tricky, Premier League games. But, if we can go to Brentford and win, we can go to Brighton and win. We've won there last year 3-0, 4-2 the previous season. I look at that defensive record that you're talking about. Across the last 6 games, Palace was different because they really came at us, didn't they? And they created some chances. And that result maybe was skewed because that 5-1 was maybe not a 5-1er. The other games in this run of 6, Brentford had the highest expected goals against us across the 5 of those 6 games with 0.32, which is basically nothing. This Arsenal team has shut down 5 of the last 6 opponents. We can absolutely shut down Brighton. So let's go there, be as solid as we have been. And I'm confident that we will score goals. But Brighton don't keep that many clean sheets. They're having a sticky patch. I think they win this in 7, aren't they? So, yeah, I think we can go there and win professionally.
Yeah, and I think the one concern would be probably at right back with no Timber who's suspended. I mean, you could put Thomas Partey there, but we were saying how good he was in midfield. And I do think Arsenal lack something when he moves out of there and plays right back.
Who else would you put?
The only other option is, I think Calafiori played, maybe it was PSG might have done sort of a bit of time there, which feels a stretch. But I mean, beyond that, there isn't really many options.
So then who are you going to put left?
You could play Lewis Skelly left back, who I thought Calafiori looked a little rusty. I think Lewis Skelly's a bit unlucky to lose his place there. But
I agree.
I think it's a difficult one to decide what to do then. And it will probably, if Partey plays there, it'll be a big show of faith if he plays Nwaneri again, because as good as he was, I still think defensively there were times where Timber was sort of covering for him, and if you're playing Partey there, I think you'd want maybe someone a bit more seniority to try and cover. But that's the one area I'd be concerned, because we know how many wingers Brighton have got. I mean, countless Matoma, Dingra, the list goes on. So that is probably the one area I think Arsenal will be concerned about. What do you do at right back if you've not got Timber?
Yeah, and whether players like Kai Havertz are back and fit, ready to contribute. I mean, this is the thing. I'm sitting here 20 minutes ago saying it has to be Nwaneri starting at right wing. The reality is the games are coming so thick and fast that we're going to have to move people around. We're going to have to try different things, and everyone's going to have to contribute somewhat. So I was the same as you, Simon. I was a bit gutted not to see Miles Lewis-Skelly start last night. I thought he was brilliant the last few games, but he's going to get starts. All of these players are going to have to contribute, and as much as anything, we've got to keep as many of them fit as possible, because Arteta said himself, and I think in the press conference before Brentford, he said, we started this season with one of the thinnest squads in the league. It's got to get thicker soon. Do you know what I mean? We've got to strengthen the team.
Whose fault was that?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Declan Rice was obviously, I hate to bring it up, but he was sent off in this fixture, obviously, earlier this year.
Oh, I can't remember that.
Really? I know, I hate to bring it up, and I don't want to bring it up. Are we feeling the same? Not the same, but is that feeling with us still?
No, you just got to let it go. It's with us because we're barracking every single referee at Emirates Stadium that doesn't book someone for obstructing a free kick. So we're not going to forget about it, but it's not Brighton, it's not, Veltman, who, for me, definitely played for that red card or played for the second yellow. It was a fake restart because the ball was moving. He had no one to pass to. He manufactured a situation where it looked like Rice blocked a free kick. But for me, it wasn't a legitimate free kick. So we've got our quibbles about it, but it's done. It's done now, and we've got to get our own back on the pitch, haven't we? And I think Declan Rice will probably be a really key player, won't he? Especially if Partey does go to right back, he'll come into that base of the midfield. And then it'll be interesting to see who plays either side. You know, it'll probably be Ødegaard to the right, but will it be, you know, who will it be on the left-hand side? Will it be Merino again, or would it be Kai Havertz with Jesus up front, like it was in the Ipswich game? So, yeah, there's a little bit of a conundrum.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what Simon says about it, the idea of a right flank of Thomas Partey and Ethan Nwaneri, with the strength that Brighton have got on the left. So I would understand if it was a case of Jesus moving over to the right, maybe Havertz at 9, Merino keeps his place at left day. For me, I don't want to hammer him because we know he's had a kid recently, and Ødegaard's been quiet the last few weeks, I have to say. And I think, especially in the absence of Saka, in that kind of right, like, pod almost, you'd want Ødegaard to stand up a bit more. And the big thing I'd want with Timber's absence, but I think Timber's absence is a really big absence. I think in the last sort of month or two, Timber looks like a captain on the pitch. He wins every single duel. He's so intense from the first minute. He drags us into the opposition half. He commits people. When there's moments in a game where we're not managing to penetrate, he'll just go on a dribble and have a shot if he wants to. And I kind of want to see that level of personality from Ødegaard in this game. So I don't want to hammer him. He's our captain. He's been one of our best players over the last 2.5 years. But I do think he's been quiet. And this might be a game with Timber out, obviously still Bukayo Saka out, where on that right-hand side, he really needs to step up and have a big performance.
Yeah, agreed. Look, we talked earlier about 5 and 10%. Everybody needs to raise it, and others have. And I don't think Martin has yet. But like you say,
one goal this season. I think it was a penalty.
Yeah,
that's not the player we used to.
Martin Ødegaard.
Yeah, the guy who got 15 Premier League goals.
Been a bit safe with his passing, hasn't he? Yeah, he just hasn't hit the heights, but we know he'll be back. Yeah, maybe this is the game. He's had good games there before. Brilliant pass, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Set Martinelli away, wasn't it, for a goal? That was brilliant.
I mean, that fixture a couple of times has become one of those real back and forth transitional games. And I thought it was interesting. You mentioned Martinelli there. Once we went, I think it was 2 or 3-1 up yesterday. Martinelli suddenly comes alive because as soon as a team has to come onto us, there's space for him to run. And you do wonder if Brighton, they do like to commit to attacks. Yeah. They do like to play attacking football. So you wonder if this might suit a player like Martinelli and someone like Ødegaard who can just release players quickly on transition.
It should suit Arsenal, this game, because, you know, Brentford were always going to retreat. Yeah. I think that was obvious. The same with Ipswich, same with Everton. They'll be more like Palace, I would imagine, because they've got such good forward players. They want to press. Hertzler is that kind of coach. I don't see them putting that blue and white striped wall back. And whenever a team plays with that press against us, I like it. I think the team likes it. So, yeah, hopefully we can go down there and score some goals.
And in my opinion, it would be simply stunning if Declan Rice does score a goal. I just, I feel like it would be good karma. So now let's move on to Newcastle. We're playing them Tuesday night in the Carabao Cup. Where does this game rank in priority?
It's one of the biggest games of the month, I think. Against a team that Arsenal sort of have this brewing rivalry with. I think back to that a couple of years ago at the Emirates where it was the ball in play was something like the lowest in Premier League. It was 50 minutes in play or something, and there was the needle between Howe and Tyndall and Arteta, and that was kind of where it started, and it's grown since then. Obviously, the goal last season at St James's, I think Arsenal, when they played them at the Emirates, kind of had a bit of intent of wanting to put a marker down, and against a Newcastle team who looked really, really good. I must admit, last few weeks, absolutely flying. So yeah, given what we spoke about, trophies and the need to win something, I think it's up there with sort of one of the biggest games this month.
There's a player on the pitch for Tuesday night, tall, forward, can play left, can play through the middle, can dribble, score goals.
I thought he was going Joe Linton there.
There's been times where I wouldn't have minded Joe Linton either at that left 8. But no, I mean, Isak's one where, as Arsenal fans, I think there's something about the idea of him in a number 14 shirt that certainly appeals, but we have to be alert to his threat because I personally, I think he's on form, maybe the best striker in the league at the moment. Such a good player. So such an all-round threat as well. I think he's added a lot to his game in the last 6 months as well, the way he brings other players into the game. We've got to be alert to that. And I think we've also got to be alert to the fact that certainly at St James's Park, Eddie Howe's been very, very, very good at congesting the middle of the pitch. He almost plays 4 central midfielders and allows Gordon and Isak to be the forwards. And we really struggled to play through them. We embarrassed them at the Emirates. I think it was February last year, 4-1. we really embarrassed them. But they were really injury hit for that game. They didn't have the right players on the pitch. They're really up for this. They want a trophy, and it's been really bad at Newcastle until the last 6 weeks. They're going to want to come and. I think for them, beating Arsenal at the Emirates is a real scalp, and that would set their season off if they could do that. So we have to be alert to it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, they don't win at Emirates Stadium very often. I think they've lost 12 of the last 13 games at our place. So yeah, no, I agree. It's a huge game. The midfield is massive. Newcastle's midfield is superb. It's got great balance, and they are good at disrupting us. So we've got to find a way. We've got to find a solution to that to win the tie. I think we will. I think we are a better team than Newcastle, but it's going to be hard work. We're going to have to be really physically strong, I think, mentally strong, and ride out some tough moments.
Look, Newcastle won a trophy, but we won a trophy. So joining us now from Truth Faith is Youssef Hatem. Hey, Youssef, welcome to Inside Gooners.
Hello.
Hello. So a couple of big games coming up for Newcastle against Arsenal in the Carabao Cup semi-finals. How do you feel going into them?
Well, when the draw was made, Arsenal was the one I wanted to avoid. Since that, we've played 3 times and scored 9 without reply. So I feel more confident now than I did when the draw was made.
Okay. So the confidence is there. So what's the target for the first leg at the Emirates then?
The target is to still be in the tie in the second leg. I mean, that sounds like an obvious thing to say, but
No, not really.
I think Newcastle at St James's Park. I think we've won the last 3 on the spin against Arsenal at our place. We have a terrible record at the Emirates. I think the last time we won there was Andy Carroll got a winner in a 1-0 in 2010. That's what I remember. I don't know if we've won since then at the Emirates. So long as we're within a goal of you coming back to our place, I think we'll do you. I think Arsenal would need to win by at least 2 clear goals on Tuesday night to be the favourites going into the second leg at our place. So I'm confident for the tie overall, but I'm not massively confident about Tuesday itself.
Well, if he's going to put it one way, he's going to put it that they're going to do us. So, Adrian, I have a question for you then. So, Arsenal's recent record away at Newcastle has been poor, but at home we're normally pretty good against them. Should Arsenal be targeting a quick start in this tie then?
Oh, definitely. You want a quick start in almost every game, don't you? You want to put the opposition on the back foot. You don't want to fall behind against Newcastle United. We found that to our cost, haven't we? At St James's Park, where they managed that game earlier on this season very, very well indeed. So they can stifle Arsenal, and that will be their game plan for sure, to stay in the tie, as Youssef said. But yeah, if we can get off to one of those blistering starts, get ourselves a 2-goal cushion potentially, we can have a little bit of fun with it. And then they might have to come out and be a little bit more ambitious. And that might be when we get the opportunity to score more goals. I don't think they're going to be over-ambitious. I think they're going to try and be as defensive as possible in this game.
Okay. Well, what about the set pieces? What do we think about the set pieces going into this game?
Always feel good about the set pieces, to be honest. It's been a long time since I haven't felt good about it. But Newcastle are a physical team. They're a big team, and if it's Pope in goal, that's one thing he is good at, is commanding his box. It'll be a game for the Mikel Marinos. It'll be a game for our big lads. It's a game to compete and to win duels, as Arteta thinks every game is.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to have to be on it with that stuff, because the fella there, I know he feels confident now. I bet he felt a lot less confident when Bukayo Saka's hamstring was attached to his leg. That's ultimately it. So it's any way that we can gain an advantage without Bukayo, we have to have it.
Can I ask Youssef a question? Youssef, in terms of Isak, he's the obvious danger man as far as we're concerned. But who else? We know about his form. His form is ridiculous at the moment. Who else at Newcastle United is in probably the best form of the season so far?
I think you've got to be looking, and you've talked about the midfield, but the one in particular to watch out for is Sandro Tonali. So I was at that game at the Emirates that you talked about before. It was actually first Tuesday in January, so it was basically exactly 2 years ago, that 0-0 where we essentially, well, there are various post-mortem sheds where you could use, but 2:45 in the family show. But there were ways we got to that 0-0 that night. We're a different proposition now. I think even from the team that you faced at St James's in November, the team that you faced at St James's last year. Tonali has made us a much better side with the ball. Things go through him. He's a deep-lying central midfielder. We're a far better team in possession now, trying to dictate the actual pace of the game in midfield. I think we will find that difficult to do at the Emirates. We will go into that game second favourites. I accept that. But we're a much better side with the ball now, with Tonali at the base of that midfield. And he's definitely one to look out for, because I think with Joelinton, you know what you're going to get. With Bruno Guimaraes, you know what his qualities are. Tonali is the one that really, in December, frankly, has come to the fore. Isak is the main man. He is absolutely world class. But if there's another player that I think really is one to watch on Tuesday, it's Tonali, who I think most of the league are finding out something new about him, because he wasn't really a big part of our side last year. He had his suspension due to gambling infractions in Italy, and he wasn't even in our squad. He wasn't even part of Newcastle the year before when we qualified for the Champions League. So he's the new one, although it's a side as a unit that are in form, and I don't really expect anybody to be an easy touch.
Yusuf, back to Arsenal's set pieces. Do they worry you then?
I only watch Newcastle, so.
Okay.
No, joking aside, they do. I mean, it's to have that sort of that ability, to have that in your locker is always going to be something you want to have, and that's why when I talk about our form in recent weeks, the fact that we've been defensively sound as well. We haven't conceded in the last 5 games, apart from a late consolation that Brentford got in the quarter-final at our place. So it's not just been good going forward, it's been good at the back as well. So I think we're quite well equipped to deal with Arsenal's set pieces. I know a lot of visiting teams have said that so far this season, and they've been found wanting. But, Burn is 10'8", and we've got Isak, who actually gets back and defends set pieces as well. We can be quite a big side. We are quite a physical side. We haven't lost that as we've become better with the ball. So I do think we're well set up to deal with Arsenal's threat from set pieces, but it's an obvious concern, and it's obviously something that I'm sure Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall and the team are working on quite a lot in training, because anybody who's watched Arsenal this year will know what a threat you are from those situations.
Thank you very much. I'll take that compliment. What a threat we are. Simon, I've got a question for you then. So how much do you expect Arsenal to rotate on the day? It's Man United on the weekend after in the FA Cup, and then obviously Newcastle play League Two Bromley.
Yeah, I mean, he has rotated in the Carabao Cup, hasn't he? But if you're looking at it that week, I mean, I would argue Man United is the easier game, and I'd be rotating in that. I'd be wanting to go stronger against Newcastle. I really think in terms of team selection, that is where I would be putting my strongest team and going all out for. The debate will be, I think, do you play someone like Wier, who's been brilliant in the Carabao Cup all season? But I think for this game, I think Newcastle are going to come full strength. We talk about need to win a trophy. I mean, they really want to win a trophy.
I was at the Forest game in round 2, and Newcastle went full strength then. They've targeted this cup, no doubt about that. So we know that they're going to treat this really seriously. We should absolutely go full strength, in my opinion. United is the easier game. It sounds weird to say it, but it is. It's not even tight, is it? It's a considerably easier game.
Form-wise, and you mentioned about Nwaneri having a good time in the Carabao. He's had a good time in the Premier League this season. This is the thing. Those players,
he's just good.
He's just good. The Miles Lewis-Skellies. That's not a Carabao Cup player who deserves to keep his place in the tournament. That's a good player who's played Champions League and Premier League. The squad's thin enough now that I think we can talk about rotating the team. That was a quote-unquote rotated team last night against Brentford. That was no Declan Rice, that was no Kai Havertz. It was still a really strong team. And I think that's what our team's going to look like for the rest of this month, really. I think there's always going to be a good player sat on the bench, because ultimately we're going to have to nurse these players through 3-game weeks for the rest of this month when we don't have much of a squad. But I think we know Arteta. We know how he feels about being competitive in every game. I don't think we're going to see a really quote-unquote rotated side for any game this year.
So Yusuf, back to you. I want to ask what your prediction is for Tuesday.
I think we'll lose by a goal. I think we'll beat you by 1 at our place, and we'll do you on pens and get to the final.
I mean, I only said Tuesday, but thanks. Yeah, go on.
Ask Yusuf the question. Yusuf, how much do you think Isak moves to Arsenal for in the summer then?
Over my dead body.
Expensive then.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Yusuf, for joining us. And we'll catch up again ahead of the second leg. I want to say good luck, but you know what? I'm not. So. Okay, so then, guys, interestingly, while we're talking about this, the Carabao Cup, they're going to be trialling in-game VAR announcements for the semi-finals. However, only the final decision will be announced in the stadium and not the entire VAR process. It just sounds so confusing. Jacob, what are your thoughts on that?
Utter woke nonsense. I think that in terms of being in the ground, you don't need someone to announce the final decision because you know the financial decision because it's clearly visible on a very expensive billboard. The problem in the ground is that you don't know what's happening while it's happening. What would be helpful is if you could hear some kind of deliberation, maybe from a commentator or from an in-ground sort of announcement team about what's going on. The issue with this, it doesn't solve that problem at all. And what it does do, I think, is it leans further and further towards what Howard Webb seems to want, which is these referees becoming minor celebrities who are microphoned throughout games, who'll do strictly when it gets to winter time. And I don't think it helps what the issue is, which is at the moment, there aren't enough good referees in the Premier League. The reason for that is there's not enough people wanting to become referees. And I think ultimately there's quite a toxic attitude towards referees in Britain. There's not a wide enough pool of people learning how to do that job. And it's not going to help when referees are having to make those announcements. And what do you think happens when it's the referee themselves? Do you think the referees are looking forward to doing this?
No.
I hope they're not, because it's going to be awful. Because whichever way round it is, there's going to be a big bank of fans who aren't happy about it, who are going to boo that decision. And they're going to boo everything else the referee does for the rest of that game. And I don't see... it feels like a very Americanised idea of bringing more quote-unquote entertainment into the game. And it doesn't really help anything. When I think really, if like every team feels like this has been a really poor season for refereeing in the Premier League, I don't think further focus on it will help.
I've got this feeling just from that little monologue you had that you feel really passionate about that.
Yeah, it's not.
It's just something about the energy in the studio.
It's not for me. It's not for me.
No, not a lot to add to that, really. I mean, I do agree. It's not. I don't see the upside, really. They're going to come out with generic wording, aren't they? They're just going to say, yes, it is a penalty because there was a trip on X player. I mean, I don't really see what the fuss is about, to be honest. I think that they've got other internal issues to deal with in terms of raising the standard of decision-making in the first place, whether that's on the pitch or off the pitch. I think that the officiating has been below par this season.
I think what you want is greater transparency, isn't it? And if you could see how the decision has got to, it might be a bit more palatable because I can kind of understand what you've seen there. But when you don't hear anything and they suddenly go, this is what we've come up with, I think that's when you get the issue. And this, as you say, it won't really solve it. You'll just be told, yeah, we're given a penalty.
I mean, the only way I think that it would really sort of please the in-stadium fans is if it's on the big screen, we're watching what they're watching on that screen, and we hear the dialogue between the referee and the VAR room. If we all get access to that, fine. I'm very happy with that because the paying customer isn't being kept in the dark. You know, and that would be... It wouldn't be entertaining, but at least it'd be informative.
I think it'd be entertaining.
I think it's so entertaining. Everyone crooking their necks, looking at the screens, matching up the lines.
I would love to listen to 60,000 fans at the Emirates, watch them forget to draw the lines in that Brentford game. There'd have been some entertainment there.
Yeah, this is true.
It would be entertaining, it would. So before we go, obviously, it's the start of a new year. What does everyone want from Arsenal this year?
It's easy. We just want silverware. We want a nice shiny trophy. I don't really care. I mean, in terms of priority, I'd love the Premier League first and foremost, then the Champions League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, but any of the four will do. And two would be even better. Okay,
and then before we move on to you guys as well, what about the window? Anything that you'd want from the transfer window?
Yeah, forward for sure. Yeah. There are lots of names I'd like. I don't think we could afford them at the moment, but yeah, I think that the squad could do with an explosive front man, someone with a real pace, someone that is clearly clinical, and let's see what we can do. I think that the team, the message it was sent to the team and to the supporters and to Liverpool is that we as a club are going for this. We know we're close. We know we're a great team. We know we've got a chance of winning trophy here. We're going to give you a little bit of help here. There you go, Mikel. There's that player that you've been after. I'd love to see it happen. But finances dictate, don't they? And so too do the clubs that you want to buy those players from. No one wants to lose their good players in January, unfortunately.
Before I move on again, because I just love the sound of Adrian's voice. One more to Adrian. Is the Carabao Cup enough then?
Is it enough?
Yeah, for
this
Arsenal for the season.
It'll be fine. Like, I don't know how much I can go beyond that. It would be fine. It would represent progress because we'd win. We're going to finish at least second. Second, and the Carabao Cup is progress. But I think we should aim for higher.
Okay. Right. Moving on now.
I think in terms of January, as you say, it's really difficult to sign a forward. We know we need a forward. Everyone knows Arsenal need a forward. But the names we've been linked with, you look inside the Premier League, players like Kudus, players like Semenyo, like what are they going to charge? 80, 90? It's an awful lot of money. And ultimately, I joke with Yusuf, but there's good reports saying that what we want in the summer is Isak. And that's not coming cheap. It's not. So, and I don't think, as much as we want to win a trophy this year, as much as we want to run Liverpool close, if that's your long-term plan is to get a player like Isak in, who, as I say, I do think he's maybe the best forward in the Premier League outside of your Salahs and your Haalands, I don't think you should do something in January that hinders that. So I think you're looking around that 40, 50 million mark. If you can get someone in, I've heard links to Omar Mamouche in Germany, players like that who could give us something a bit different, great. But if I had one wish for this Arsenal team going into the new year, it's seeing Bukayo Saka back on the pitch playing at his full capacity, because we don't know complete ins and outs about that injury. We know he's had surgery. That's a really big injury, and that's a kid who's played an awful lot of football. And for me, I've become a fan of Bukayo Saka more so than I do most Arsenal players, right? When I was younger, when I was 13, 14, I fell in love with Pires and Henry, and you see them leave and your heart gets broken a little bit and you go, right, love the club, don't fall in love with players because players come and go. But with Bukayo, there's something special, isn't there? Yeah. He feels like one of us, and we, you know, I just, like, when he first got injured, I didn't think about our season, I thought about him. And I thought about him coming back and being the player he should be and going on to become the player he should become. So for me, it's just seeing him back on grass, running at full speed, doing the things he can do and finishing this season on a strong.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, trophies is a tempting one to say, particularly if it is the Carabao, you know, you're going to be beating Liverpool or Spurs in the final, which would be pretty sweet, I think, for a day at Wembley. I would probably go for new contracts for Saka and Saliba, who'll both have 2 years left in the summer. And I think if you tie both of those down, the trophies will come with it. And I think those are two players that I think are just absolutely, you know, fundamental to Arsenal. You know, talk about Saka, obviously the connection there. Saliba, the only thing that worries me with him is that he just screams Real Madrid. Yeah. Just the way he plays, he's just an absolute Rolls Royce for a player. But if you could tie those two down for another 4 years, I mean, how good would that be? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would be. So we've got, for 2025, we have trophies, we have contracts, and we have good health for all of our players. For all of our players. But for our star boy, but for all of our players indeed. Well, that's all we've got time for this week. A huge thanks to Adrian, Jacob and Simon. We'll see you Thursday after Newcastle. Have a great new year, everybody. And remember, trust the process.